Okay.
Green energy has come more to the forefront of conversations in recent years as climate change continues to worsen. Evidence can be seen in melting polar ice caps, more frequent and violent storms, as well as rising sea levels and rising temperatures. So how is all of this affecting New Hampshire? What does our green energy footprint look like? New Hampshire produces 1,711,000 megawatt hours of electricity each year, and this is distributed among the 1.3 million people that reside here. In 2016, 17% of this energy came from renewable resources, and today more than 19% comes from renewable resources. My name is Olivia Bynum, and I'm here to tell you about green energy and the role it plays in New Hampshire. I researched green energy and photographed sites around the state that had to do with energy production. The first site that I photographed was a simple setup of just 16 solar panels located in the small town of Canterbury, New Hampshire. These solar panels provide energy to some of the buildings in the center of town. This may seem like it makes only a small impact, but I ask you, how else would New Hampshire improve its green energy footprint 2% in just as little as 3 years? It is thanks to these small efforts of small towns and individuals scattered throughout the state who choose to go away from carbon and towards clean and green energies. The second site that I encountered and photographed was the biggest and only remaining coal-burning plant here in New England, the Merrimack Station Power Plant. The Merrimack Station Power Plant hits close to home for us here in Bow because it is located in our town and located only 15 minutes away from the school. These photos were a stark contrast to the small and unimposing set of solar panels in Canterbury. The way these sites came across in my photographs are representative of their impact on the state and the environment. The solar panels are small and almost become a part of the landscape, whereas Merrimack County Power Station dominates the landscape. Despite its dominating presence, this is only reflective on the impact it has on the environment. It produces a relatively low amount of energy. It produces only 12.5% of the electricity generated by New Hampshire last year. For a comparison, the other largest producer was Seabrook Nuclear Power Plant in Seabrook, New Hampshire. Seabrook Nuclear Power Plant produced 40% of the electricity last year. Although nuclear power is not a renewable source, it is considered a clean energy source because it does not produce as many air pollutants as fossil fuels do. The 12.5% that Merrimack Station produced last year is expected to continue to decrease and is the lowest it's been since it opened in the 1960s. Despite these climate implications, it will still be a backup for many years to come because of the unreliability of the storage of renewable resources. Despite this discouraging news, this is only one side of the climate change fight. If we choose to focus only on what New Hampshire is doing right and only on the renewable resources, New Hampshire renewables have been up since 2014 and are still on the rise. This is a graph from 2014, and it shows that the biomass accounted for 7.2% of electricity, hydroelectric accounted for 7.1%, and wind accounted for 2.1%. These numbers were resurveyed 2 years later in 2016, and it was found that biomass had risen to 8.11%, hydroelectric accounted for 7.93%, and wind accounted for 2.38%. Although these may seem like small increases, it's a step in the right direction. It is also important to consider that these were last fully surveyed in 2016 and have risen again since then. This graph is from 2018 and shows overall what the renewables looked like. All renewables accounted for 9% of electricity generation in 2018, and hydroelectric alone was responsible for 7%. In 2019, both of these combined rose to 19%. As the climate crisis draws attention in the real world, it is also drawing much attention in the political world. Many candidates for the 2020 presidential election are choosing to make it a platform issue. One of these such candidates is Pete Buttigieg. Buttigieg spoke here at Bow High School this campaign season, and he has a plan to combat climate change. He plans to enter into a Green New Deal part of which is to make the U.S. carbon neutral by the year 2050. He aims to do this through a carbon tax, as well as doubling clean energy generation by the year 2025. He is not the only candidate choosing to make this a platform issue. Other candidates include Joe Biden, Cory Booker, and Tom Steyer. Climate change is being fought across the U.S. and in New Hampshire through green energy. Green energy can be generated on any scale, from the small set of 16 solar panels that I photographed to large-scale solar and wind farms that can provide for thousands of people. New Hampshire is moving little by little in the right direction and will hopefully soon be assisted by presidential candidates and other political figures. As former President Barack Obama once said, climate change is no longer a far-off issue. It is happening here, it is happening now. I believe that we can all do our part by being aware of the problem and supporting an active solution. Thank you.